HBO's Game Theory with Bomani Jones will return for season 2 on Friday, January 20th on HBO and available to stream on HBO Max. He is the host of the Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast back here on the Rich Eisen Show. Bomani Jones, how you doing, sir?
Not only am I doing well, I am agreeing with you on you got to like something about the character very often. If it's going to be like a lead character, you got to have something about him that you actually like.
Yeah. That's the TV I like. I want to root for somebody, and then if you make me feel bad about rooting for him, I'm into that. I'm into that thought process as I'm watching a show about, what is it about me that wants to root for somebody who's not up on the up and up, kind of,
Yeah, like have you watched Hacks?
Yes.
The show with Gene Smart.
Yes.
I can't root for I can't even remember that woman's name, the young one. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like.
Right.
I find, like, normally when you try to cast somebody in that obnoxious role, they have to be, like, obnoxious. You want to like them, but they make it hard. I've been that person for much of my life for other people. And I can't get to the want me to like her part. That hasn't happened.
So what TV show are you watching now, Bomani? What do you do? What do you watch?
It's a good question. I don't watch a whole lot of TV shows. I just ran through Hacks. That was when, Southside just came back on HBO Max. I highly recommend that.
Okay.
It's basically a live-action substance with black people on the south side of Chicago.
Okay. Yes. Very good. Well, I'll make a note of that because I might jump off of the White Lotus real fast. I don't know. But, Brockman, you're telling me you got to stick in it. You got to stick in it.
Stick with it,
Very
guys.
good.
Stick with it.
So what is the storyline of the NFL season, do you think, going into Week 15? What fascinates you, Bomani?
I think that there's a bit of a quarterback changing of the guard, or is it that there just aren't that many good quarterbacks? That, to me, has been the story. Like, when you think about it, and I get the Miami fans who worry or fret about people not jumping all the way on board with Tua, even though he had put up, like, MVP-level performance up until the last couple of weeks. And I think the reason that they should feel that way is, who else are we jumping on board with, right? Like, we are in a year where we are actually marveling at the futures of maybe the Lions and the Jets, except they don't have quarterbacks. Nobody seems to have a quarterback this year.
Well, I guess one guy, in terms of the changing of the guard, I thought that here's where you were going, is that Jalen Hurts is the MVP of this league. That's a changing of the guard.
Shocking. The thing with me with Hurts was, and I've been saying this since he got into the league, I had already seen him play for two professional teams, the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Oklahoma Sooners, and I had watched him at once be really good and also be the ceiling on where they could go. He's been so good as a passer relative to what my expectations were possible for him, largely just because he's 6'1", and the 6'1" quarterback doesn't typically go very far. He's going to win the MVP this year. I mean, I think if the Eagles, unless they fall apart at the end of the year, if they end up with a record like 15-2 or 14-3, you got to give it to him. And nobody walked in the year thinking that could happen.
I think you just hit the nail so on the head, Bomani, and I've been trying to hammer down on this nail for quite some time as to why so many folks who follow professional sports in the NFL and certainly fans in Philadelphia overlooked him or didn't believe that Jalen Hurts could be the guy that he is right now is because, and I was kind of hitting around the nail by saying what happened in Alabama put such a negative connotation on his abilities. But the fact is, as you just hit it right on the head, is that he represented, in many people's minds, a ceiling that he hit. And Tua was the one who could take Alabama into a higher ceiling. And Kyler Murray took Oklahoma to a very high ceiling, and his ceiling was a little bit less than once he was there, right? And so you get this sense here that he's now ripped the ceiling off of the entire NFL, and that's why people are stunned, right?
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to let go of your priors. God knows I had to with Josh Allen, for example, right? Everything that I had bad to say about Josh Allen the first 2 years or whatever his career were absolutely accurate, right? Like, you go back and watch it, and he looked like he had all the tools and absolutely no idea how to use them. But I can't still keep evaluating him based on that, right? Like, I think people probably went a little bit too far, and now I think it's easier for them to see the warts on him. But I can't act like what I thought about him in 2019 still applies right now. And I think that's where we are with Hurts. The other thing with Hurts that's worth noting is, much like at Alabama and Oklahoma, man, they're loaded. Like, he's surrounded by talent, and you add his leadership capabilities. Like, he doesn't get the coach's son stuff enough from people. He's literally a coach's son, and he gives you all of those things. And so you give him a dude like A.J. Brown. Like, some dudes can always get open, but some guys are just always open just walking in the stadium. A.J. Brown is always open. Like, Anquan Bolton was always open. It didn't matter if 5 people were there. They got a real chance. And as of right now, I don't think that Hurts is the ceiling. Now, what's it going to look like in the playoffs? It's fair to raise a question about that because that's a different brand of football than you get. So it may be different there. Like, we've seen Lamar Jackson not be as good in the playoffs as an example of that. It doesn't mean he's not good, but it's a different kind of game once you get there. We're going to have to see that with Hurts.
Bomani Jones here on the Rich Eisen Show. I guess the Brock Purdy mania could reach a new height if he takes care of the Seattle Seahawks tonight. Do you think the 49ers can win the Super Bowl with Brock Purdy? Bomani?
No, I am not in a position, as hard as I am on Jimmy Garoppolo, to just be like, yeah, we'll pull a dude in off the street. He'll be better than you. Because I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the ceiling that would stop them from being able to win a Super Bowl. Now, Purdy could wind up changing my mind as we go through this. I mean, that part is entirely possible. What I think is really interesting about this is if Brock Purdy can operate this offense at the level that, is enough for them to win, it really does, again, make us go back and say, why did you trade so much for Trey Lance? And I think that Trey Lance has a chance to be really, really good. But in terms of allocation of resources, Kyle Shanahan does quarterback things that just don't make any sense to me. As much as we think of him as the genius, and it's a fair argument to make in a lot of ways, the things he does that make no sense to me are outright head scratches, and they all have to do with quarterback.
It's just, to me, there's just too many you never know moments in the NFL, and he could be the next one. And I know whenever people point that out, it's just an overreaction, and I don't know. It just seems that there are so many talented people around him that why can't he be a younger version of Nick Foles or a new version of Brady or Kurt Warner, and that we see him holding his hand, his head in his hands with the confetti coming down in Arizona.
It's just a lot to ask of a young guy, though.
Right.
Like, as I watch more and more football, the thing I realize more and more about quarterbacks is we thought about quarterbacks more like kickers. It would make a lot of sense. You know how kickers can just lose it out of nowhere? And it's not like their legs fall off or anything like that. There's just a mental component and a certain confidence that goes away. So I look at a dude like Carson Wentz. You're not going to tell me that Carson Wentz just got terrible. I just think Carson Wentz's head isn't in the right place to still get it done. Like, when you look at Mitchell Trubisky, and I know, look, he ain't never been great necessarily, but you go look at him in his second year versus this year, there's no logical argument for why it is that he would have gotten worse in that time period. The argument is probably more about where he is in his head and all of those things. And so a young guy who's never been anywhere on this level, that was what was amazing about the young Tom Brady. It wasn't that he was that good. I think he threw for 145 yards in that first Super Bowl they won. But he didn't scare when it came down to win it. And so if Purdy doesn't scare, maybe you can get it done. But, man, that's just a lot to ask of anybody that young in that situation.
Script the Dallas Cowboys season ender for me, Bomani Jones. What do you got for me?
It is either going to end in outright embarrassing misery, or we are going to see, and I'm going to say this, and I know this is going to infuriate a lot of people, maybe the best fan base in professional football finally get a reward for the last 27 years that they have been going. It's really just going to come down to Prescott. And whether or not in those moments, there's going to be at some point at which they're going to need their quarterback to win it for them. Like, the thing about Shanahan and his system that's interesting is you rarely need the quarterback to win it for you. You just need him to do stuff. Is Prescott going to be able to be the guy that does it himself in the moment where they need it? If he is, they could win the Super Bowl. If he's not, it's about to be jokes.
Well, how about this as a little bit of pushback on that sense, Bomani, is that he does have the teammates who can avoid the Cowboys being put in the position where Dak's got to win it for him. And those two guys are named Micah Parsons, where he just dominates a game. He dominates a game like Aaron Donald. He dominates a game like name a Watt, name a Bosa. He dominates a game and blows it up and wrecks it. And carries the day. Or Tony Pollard. Pollard rips off some easy ones. Pollard rips off some long ones. and suddenly Dak, all he's got to do is flip it out 5 yards, and Pollard takes it the final 70. You know, like those are the two guys I think that can change those fortunes. I think.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And the Michael Parsons thing, it's interesting. The only player that I can think of really comparable to him in my mind is Peter Boulware, who nobody's thought of in a while, but a dude that could be a dominant edge rusher and a dominant off-the-ball linebacker. And Michael Parsons is so much better than Peter Boulware, who is in the Ring of Honor for the Ravens that was on that 2000 defense. Like, people are bringing up Lawrence Taylor with Michael Parsons, which calm down. But I can't get mad at you for even trying it. And that's a testament to just how good he is. As long as they don't overcoach him. Like Ryan Clark makes the point that he's always, when he talks to Michael Parsons, he's always talking about fitting this gap and everything else. Nah, man, some dudes that see ball, get ball. That right there is see ball, get ball, and it is exciting to watch.
Bomani Jones, HBO's Game Theory, returning in January. The right time with Bomani Jones is the name of his podcast here on the Rich Eisen Show. So the MVP, who's your MVP of the NBA season so far? What do you got from you?
That's a good question. It's really funny that if his team weren't so bad, we would probably be talking about Anthony Davis after we were ready to trade him at the beginning of the season. I'm still super big Jokic guy. I will continue to be super big Jokic guy, and I recognize they don't give the MVP to anybody 3 years in a row, let alone a guy whose team hasn't demonstrated themselves to be the best in the league. But in terms of the ways that we typically give MVPs, if you go through and look at all them advanced numbers again, it's Jokic again. The stat that typically predicts best who's going to win is win shares per 48 minutes. Jokic has won it the last 2 years. He's ahead in it now, at least the last time I saw. That's the dude that I lean toward. Now, can they get something done a little bit more in the playoffs, not in the bubble? I guess we're going to have to see.
Yeah, he had 43 last night, almost a triple-double. But what about Tatum? What about Jason Tatum and these Celtics right now, the way that they are playing? Do you think they are Eastern Conference champs again? What do you think?
Yeah, I think assuming health holds up for both teams, we're facing up for what we should have got last year if Middleton doesn't get hurt, which is the Bucks and the Celtics playing for the East, and I can't wait for that. And it also, given what's happened with Missoula taking over that team and what's happened with the Nets who didn't hire Ime Udoka and Jacques Vaughn took over it and went okay, man, it's been quite a 6 months or so or however long it's been for Ime Udoka, hasn't it? I guess it's only been 3. It just feels like forever. The Celtics don't miss him. The Nets didn't need him. Nia Long chucked him the deuce. Man.
I didn't see that last part coming. You kind of caught me, a wobbly knee right there. But, yeah, I would think so that the Bucks and the Celtics are those two. But I still can't shake the Nets. I don't know, man. I still can't shake them. I still can't do that.
I still think that their roster is too flawed for them to actually compete for a championship. And I have not watched it. This is the thing with the Nets. We only pay attention to them in times of chaos. And so they've been out here winning games, and I'm like, I wonder how they do that. When they were losing, I could tell you exactly what the reasons were. I could point to advanced numbers and everything else. The East is fun this year, though. I think the league itself overall is fun. When you look at it, there aren't only a small handful of really bad teams. We got some surprises at the top. So the Pelicans, who are making it happen big in the East. But, man, my buddy Charlie Kravitz, who produces Debatable for ESPN, made this point to me. Evan Mobley is racking up on defense in a way that once people start paying attention to the Cavs and they realize that's something they should probably do, they are going to marvel at what he brings. And they got 2 other guys who are all-stars, one of them Donovan Mitchell, and the guy that in the end is probably going to wind up being the best is Evan Mobley.
So when do you think the Cavs start, pressing their case to join this fray? I know they kind of already are. I get it, but what do you think? Around March, April, we're going to see them win a playoff series? What do you think? What do you got for me?
Yeah, they're going to have to win a series and then win a game 1 in the second round before America's like, hey, how about those Cavs?
Right.
Once you throw that word Cleveland in front of it, man, it's really difficult for people to believe in it. If LeBron James is not wearing one of their costumes, that's kind of how this thing works.
That's where I'm going.
I think that when people get a chance to see that team, and I think there are a few teams like that it's just a matter of people haven't really laid eyeballs on them because the NFL dominates so much of the attention at this time of year that they don't really think about it. But once we start getting later in the NFL playoffs and there's more time for people to kind of go around and look at different things and people's teams are out of it, so they start paying attention to the local basketball team, I think they're going to see there's so much going on in the NBA right now that I'd be terrified if I were the commissioner, because I just don't know how it is that this isn't selling a little better right now.
Although I don't know of too many other times what the page in New Orleans has been turned from the Saints to the Pelicans this early, but it has.
Oh, well.
You know? I mean,
yeah, that is true. You know, we have to remember they didn't have a basketball team at the time, but there was that whole era of the Aints. I don't know if you realize this, but I hate the Saints with the fire of 1,000.
I know that.
I used to root for the Falcons, but I keep hating the Saints. And yes, I'm happy for those of them that root for the Pelicans, because I think that is a very good story. But I hope that every Sunday the Pelicans don't play and the Saints go back and they watch Andy Dalton play against whoever it is that they're going to lose to. I just want it to hurt.
Bomani, I was saying this, was it just yesterday, guys? Talking about the Falcons Saints is the most hate-fueled rivalry in sports that nobody talks about. You know
why? Because it's the only rivalry that was fueled when both teams were sorry. Like, it wasn't whoever wins this game, like Yankees-Red Sox, right? Whoever wins this game is going to be the one to win the East. No,
right.
If we don't beat these guys, we don't deserve to be in the league. Add in, like, a little dollop of the migration after Katrina, where a lot of New Orleans wound up going to Atlanta. And so it's like the most hate-fueled rivalry. It's like quietly the blackest rivalry in the NFL. There's so much that goes on with it, and I love nothing more than to put on Twitter that picture of that paper bag to remind the Saints where they came from. Problem is, they won that damn Super Bowl. They can't nobody take it away from them. Well, I don't know how many years it's going to take before their Super Bowl is like the Jets Super Bowl, but I wish it would hurry up.
That's how I feel about the Eagles Super Bowl.
I know. I just love you giving voice to this. You know, Bomani, obviously with Desmond Ridder taking the reins and the Falcons and Saints renewing their rivalry again this coming weekend. You know, I remember at that Super Bowl in Atlanta, Rams versus Patriots, that, I'm out in a restaurant and somebody was, one of the waiters comes up and he's just like, man, that was a terrible, terrible pass interference moment. Like, it was one of the worst calls I've ever seen, where the Rams made it over the Saints. And then he leans in and he goes, but I'm so glad that no New Orleans Saints fans are coming to this town this weekend.
Except they did. They did. I was there for that Super Bowl, and I have pictures of them. They actually showed up. They bought those tickets too early, and they were like, damn it, I'm still going to come. And I'm glad they got what I got, the most boring Super Bowl ever, where I'm sitting next to Pablo, and at some point he looks at me and was like, wow, a commercial would be great right now. It really would have been.
That's right.
10-3, 13-3.
That's right. Gronk with a huge red zone grab, and Sony Michel the only touchdown of the game. That was it.
That I did not see because I was sitting behind two Patriots fans who were so nervous they stood up every time the Patriots had the ball and did not sit down.
Oh, boy, down in front. Bomani, appreciate the time as always. Let's have you back on closer to the premiere in January 20th on HBO and available to stream on HBO Max, Season 2 of Game Theory with Bomani Jones. Everybody check out the Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast. Always appreciate your 2 cents.
You got it, man. Go whoever's playing the Saints, no matter when, where, or why.
There you go. There's Bomani Jones right here on the Rich Eisen Show. I love that he gives voice. What did I tell you the other day?
Oh, it's true. The hate is so real. When I was in New Orleans in 2018, they had a billboard up celebrating the fact that the Falcons blew a 28-3 lead in the Super Bowl. They were celebrating the Falcons' failure in New Orleans with a billboard. It was incredible.
We talk about all these. Say it again.
We heard it when we went to Atlanta for the Super Bowl. I didn't realize it was that bad.
Oh, it is
until we were there, and I was like, "Oh wow, these two don't like each other
for real."
It's real hate.
Yeah,
for real.
Like I always say, I don't like any team in the NFC East, but like they really don't like each other. Those fans
hate it, and in the same way that I root. My children grow up root for Michigan and anybody who plays Ohio State. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.